What is going on YouTube? Welcome to the second episode of the EV Focus podcast with Ray Millen and Tesla Tim. Today we do have some interesting topics for you today, which we are covering. We'll start with thoughts on supercharging for all, as in all EVs, some of the tax credits and the craziness surrounding that, and an overview of some of the electric trucks that we've got to see and touch and test drive since the last episode. So with that, we'll go ahead and open it up. Ray, Tim, what you got?
So we'll be starting with the opening the charging network. Yeah, as far as me being the only non-Tesla driver here, I think that'd be great. I cannot wait until he does that here for North America, because that would just open up so many locations. I was just online earlier today and chatting. Electrify America had mentioned that they were adding new chargers. Just came out this week. They were adding new chargers with IKEAs. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But, more chargers, great. But there's still lots of corridors that are empty. So we got that I-20. Somebody had mentioned it before I did in the comments, that I-20 corridor between Birmingham, Alabama, and Dallas, about 700 miles of nothing other than Tesla. So, and they were like, oh, we weren't aware. We'll take a look. But if Tesla opened up their network, that would open up a huge corridor for a lot of people down here in the South who go east to west on that. If if you're on I-10, you can make it just fine. But for some reason, I-20 doesn't have that coverage. So, yeah, I'm all for it. I understand that Tesla users are like, whoa, our stations are crowded enough as it is. And I get that. I feel that, because now EAs are starting to get crowded, especially with those adapters and Tesla's coming there. And it's all good. I understand that. But I think if Tesla does it smart, and what they do is they charge us more for using their thing, I wouldn't prefer to go to their charger. I would only use it, and I think most people, when we had to on a trip, just because, there's more of them, and understanding that it's going to cost us more, I think that would offset so that you guys don't get flooded, because that would be terrible for Tesla owners as well to get flooded by all the other EVs out there. So.
Yeah, well, that's a great perspective, because as a Tesla owner, I wanted to make the case that everybody wins with this setup. So number one, as far as Tesla supercharging opening to non-Teslas, they're already doing this. So in some countries in Europe, in order to get some government incentives to build stations, they have CCS plugs. So some Teslas come with CCS plugs, and other non-Teslas can use it. So this is not something where this will be their first time, having a network that's shared. They have extensive metrics on which stations are crowded and where congestion is a problem. So my thought would be, it would not be all stations at once, but select stations coming on board, especially stations with less traffic. So, for Tesla owners where there are a high density of Teslas in California, certain urban areas where the chargers are crowded, this idea seems ridiculous. But there are many stations, like if you just went to a random station in, Rockdale, Georgia right now, there'll probably one or two stalls, or, 3 or 4 stalls that are full, but there are a lot of empty stalls at a lot of supercharger stations. And so the other thing that Tesla is talking about doing is making them faster. So, right now the fastest ones are 250 kilowatt. I'm hearing rumors they're going to go to 300, maybe even 350. So the throughput at each station would improve. So even if you had more traffic with non-Tesla EVs, it would not cause significant bottlenecks. The other thing is, go ahead, Don.
No, I was gonna say the other thing, they almost had to do that because the 250 kilowatt chargers, they're not on shared circuits like the 150 kilowatt hour charger, because basically, the rule of thumb is, if there's, and even now I think people still adhere to it. If you have let's say 4 stalls and 2 of them are taken, or let's say one of them's taken, like at the far end, you're supposed to kind of do like the like in the guy's bathroom.
The urinal rule.
Yeah. And because if you join the same circuit, it definitely brings it down, brings the charging speed down. So yeah, definitely. I think them moving to 250 kilowatts was definitely necessary because now each of them have their own dedicated circuit, so in that way it doesn't matter who's charging on what.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, if Tesla just stopped building stations and they were going to open up to everyone, I would get nervous. But if you look at the map, and they just updated the map, they're being real aggressive with building out these locations with more stalls. And so,
Send me the
at
link for that.
Target, yeah. So I'll try to send a link, but I think on the last earnings call, they increased the Supercharger network by 30% this past quarter. And I'm seeing it personally. So my last drive down to Florida, there were way more stations than last year. And so, even with opening up the network, they're trying to, build out as fast as they can. And Elon mentioned that the permits really hang them up for a lot of these locations. But I think there are a lot of stations that are lower volume that could, accommodate non-Tesla charging. The other thing is now the government incentives are about to start to kick in for building out, fast charging network. And I think Tesla can make the case when they open up to non-Tesla EVs, getting these government incentives not only benefit, Tesla, but they benefit just EV owners in general. So, when a politician is, trying to allocate tax dollars for fast charging, and Tesla is getting some of these dollars, they can go to their constituents and say, you know what, yes, the money is going to, Tesla, but the chargers are for everyone. So, I think when there are more chargers and when the government's kicking in to help with this, everyone wins. And I think Tesla has advanced metrics to help prevent significant congestion, especially at the busy superchargers. But some of their low volume superchargers, this makes total sense. But everyone, Tesla and even non-Tesla EV owners, we just want more charging, and the way to do that is to try to support it. And like Ray said, as a non-Tesla EV owner, you have to be prepared to pay more, and that extra revenue can help build out more charging. So everyone wins, in my opinion, and I think that this is a good thing. And it's already, I don't really hear too many people in the forums in Europe that share with other EVs that there's a huge issue with this. I think what they will need to do is maybe adjust the design of the superchargers, and there have been some rumors of the version 4 superchargers, and making the cables a little bit longer. Having some more pull-through stalls for EV trucks that are towing, and especially for the Cybertruck coming up. So I think the design of the stations will ultimately evolve as there's more volume and different types of vehicles throughout the
for a fact
nation.
that the Taycan doesn't fit. It doesn't fit because I tried it just for giggles one day, and it's just like, wow, it doesn't even. It's not even close.
Was it like wider than the stall that's needed, or
no? All is fine, but the cable is too short.
Mhm.
It's like 3 feet, 4 feet too short.
Yeah. So I was watching Kyle from Outer Spec. He's been in Europe for the past few weeks, and he actually has tried charging a non-Tesla. There he goes. He's tried charging a non-Tesla with over there, and honestly, right now you have this option here. Let me move this really quick. Come on, remove. So you have this option: charge your non-Tesla in the app already. So that's starting to show up now.
Okay,
but yeah, so
close.
And what they have, so what?
So they're real close. They got it in the app already, so it's real close. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's chargers. I think he was in Austria or Germany, some part of Germany. Hold on.
Boy,
This is a kid-friendly podcast.
There you go.
Very kid-friendly. But yeah, so Kyle from Outer Spec, he was out in Germany, I believe, and he was at a supercharging. He was supercharging. a non-Tesla. And the Supercharger, the design of it, it was double cabled. So you had the CCS charger, but then you also had another one under it. I forget what it's called. But yeah, so it's like they have double cables, and I think that came out in some sort of design for the next generation superchargers as well. So in that way you have two cables, but definitely, definitely it's going to have to be longer because every charge port is located differently, all throughout the vehicle. Most of them are popular for on the front left fender of the driver.
Yeah,
so
pretty much where the
in
front end, like
yeah,
a
like
lot of
the
gas tanks is sort of where, well, if they have them in front, but
yeah. So I mean, I think that's popular for non-Teslas, and then you have Teslas that mostly back into your station, and even when you back into the stall, it's still kind of short. You have to back all the way into the stall in order for it to be somewhat perfect, but still that cable's kind of taut because it's they don't put much on it, and I get it because the longer the cable, the more energy you lose, but at this point, I mean, hey, gonna need something, and I mean, I think
Don,
Elon's doing the. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to share the version 4.
Yeah.
Let me see the design. This and again, I'm gonna share this, but
okay.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is from Electric and the V4 design, and you can see that the actual the charging stall is taller. It looks taller, and then the cable certainly looks a lot longer to help stretch out, and there might even be some room for that cable to extend. So I think the next generation hardware would better accommodate the non-Tesla charging. So I hope I made the case that I think we all win with this, and I think they're going to do it in a way where they're going to mitigate congestion, and they're already doing that. I think for some of the busier superchargers, so there's one in Gainesville, Florida, and during Memorial Day, they offered free off-peak supercharging. So they might say to non-Tesla EVs, like, hey, if you charge off-peak, we'll give you a better rate as well. So they have different strategies to, help with the busy superchargers, even just for current Tesla owners. And I think when the non-Tesla owners join the network, and many of which have free charging with Electrify America. So it's not like there's going to be a flood of people, unless in emergency situations and where in certain parts of the country where EA is not as prevalent. The other thing is, although EVs are picking up steam, it's still, a small percentage of the overall automotive market. So, it's not like if they open it up tomorrow, it's not like it's going to be a flood of, EVs at these stations. So, 5 or 10 years, it might be more of an issue, but I'm hoping by that time, the network will be so advanced. And I think for destination charging, and we'll talk about, the tax bill or the EV credit bill, I think putting more focus on having chargers at destinations will help offload the congestion at superchargers. Because say you're driving to Disney World and you're going to have a place to charge at your hotel, then that might save you one stop because you have a guaranteed way to charge once you get to your destination. So yeah, but
they have.
Go ahead.
Just because you mentioned it, there's about 4 hotels that have chargers right now of their particular Disney's resorts, and I'm kind of surprised actually, given how many hotels. I don't even know, they got like 20 hotels or something like that down there, that they really don't have a lot of charging. Even the hotels where they do have chargers, only like 2 or 4 spots, and it's I believe it's not EVgo, ChargePoint.
Yeah.
So it's you,
and even at the parks, there's only like 4 to 8. And the good thing is, and this is a hack for people going to Disney, you get to park in the premium spot. The chargers are literally like at Magic Kingdom, they're literally right next to the door. So you just tell the person at the lot, say, hey, I'm going to the charge point, and they just they flag you through all the way. And I got a spot with my family, literally the best parking spot and Magic Kingdom is an EV charging spot. So but they definitely need more. And I think having more in homes and at destinations will help help us not need as much charging on the highway.
I also think it's a little I think it's a little too cluttered with different charging manufacturers. I think Tesla has the best rollout on how they've done it so far. I think they can accommodate more. Because so one of the things, like, and I guess this is going back to how they might do this when they open it up for non-Teslas. And this is straight from what they do in Europe. What happens is you pay a monthly fee, and then it's like maybe $9 to $10 a month or whatever. And then what happens is you're able to use it, but then also it charges you a slightly lower rate, but more expensive than what a Tesla would. And I mean, and like Tim said, they know what vehicles are charging because they're getting all that telemetry from the charger stalls themselves, so they're able to do that. But then also fast forward to the whole cluttered charging network manufacturers. I think what should have happened is just one. You really just need one company to do it, because now you're really gonna get a lot of mixed experiences throughout this whole process, and or even three. Like I think ChargePoint's doing it pretty well. I also think maybe EVgo or Electrify America, between those two. But in 5-10 years, you probably have a Tesla Supercharger at every corner. And that's at the rate that they're going, and because all that stuff is made out of New York, and I think they just deployed. I can't remember the number, but it's a lot of charging stalls that they're doing, and I think they're increasing production by like 33% almost every year.
Yeah. Always in favor of more competition, though, because that helps keep prices down. Because if Tesla is the vast majority of the game, well, then they control the prices, they control how everything goes. So for those of us non-Teslas getting charged more at their lots, we wouldn't have much of a choice. So yes, I'm always for everybody, as many people as possible getting out there, so we have as many different choices and we can choose what's the rate. If we want to go a little bit further to another charger and get a lower rate or something
and Tesla's a little bit annoying with their charging rates, because you don't know what the charging rate is sometimes until you get there, and because they haven't split sometimes. Sometimes it's per kilowatt hour, or it's like tiered, where like the first 5 minutes is this pricing, the second 20 minutes is this pricing, the 30 minutes after that is this price, and it's just like that's. Like I said, I think you will know, like if you were to click the charger and see what it is as you're driving, or but that's somewhat dangerous. But my wife and I went to Atlanta, and I believe the Fairplay Supercharger is either Fairplay or the Greenville charger. One of them does like the tiered pricing, which I don't think that's the way to go. I think you just do per kilowatt hour, and so in that way it's fair, because I mean that's how gas is. It's not like they charge you like for the first 30 seconds of gas you're pumping, you're gonna pay this price. For the next 30 seconds you're paying is this price. I think that's completely wrong. I think they should just do straight kilowatt hour pricing.
And I think another thing to consider for non-Tesla owners, I've seen a lot of issues with the handshake between EA stations and certain vehicles. And the one thing about Tesla Network, you got to give credit, like your credit card is on your app. So, there's really no handshake needed, because once you plug in, it's just going to link up to your profile on the app. And so it's a more of a plug and play experience, which, some people might pay a little bit extra just to have that clean handshake. And I think the other thing to consider is charging locations. And, there'll be some states talking about, how they're going to have this fast charging network set up. Just thinking about the IKEA example, I would worry if I get into IKEA and I have my car charged, I'm not going to be able to find my way out of IKEA in time to unplug it. So, it seems like it's a reasonable location, but a lot of people, spend more than 20 or 30 minutes, and the charging's so fast now. It's like, when we stop on road trips, we're getting lunch. And by the time we sit down and get food, I'm getting alert that, it's, 5-10 minutes left for charging. So, I think the location is everything with regards to fast charging. There's a place for level 2 charging, but as far as fast charging, I think we need more like large charging hubs. So not 4 or 6 stalls here and there. I think we need like like a 20 or 30 stall hub with solar and storage. And Tesla has some of those, but I think that's what we need to start moving to, having bigger hubs to accommodate more vehicles, where it's just like literally like a gas station, get in and get out. So Buc-ee's looking like a Buc-ee's for charging.
I think it should include like a lot of different vehicles. So it's like whether it's, and like you said, the hub, I think some out of those 30 stalls, like 10 of them should be Tesla chargers, another 10 should be EV Go and charge points. So in that way, everybody you start leaking that camaraderie or the community to the EV community into that, and everybody get that same experience of like, hey, you're able to go talk to somebody who has like a Taycan and or a Rivian at this point, and you're able to, everybody's just able to talk and get together and have a good time. Because that's one thing I've noticed with charging is like everybody gets out and you kind of see, it's like, oh man, you got a Model S, yeah, what year is it, blah blah, and you don't even know the person's name. You kind of just start blabbing, and then I like that. It's pretty nice. Makes you feel kind of safe, and that everybody's like, I'm not sure if you guys rode motorcycles, but it's almost like I almost get that same feeling where like when you're when you're on a motorcycle, everybody else that's on a motorcycle, you're all part of a community, and that's where I think we can definitely improve the EV community.
We need EV road signs like the motorcycles. You guys always get the signs when we pass each other. We need to come up with an EV sign.
I've started waving at people, like people like electric vehicles and Teslas. I wave at them like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. And I also tell people the way to get companies to buy into supercharging is they'll send you a survey after shopping. Like Target sends me a survey, and I'll let them know. I said, it was great being able to charge and shop at the same time. Like the more feedback you give companies, and I'll just say, yeah, I stopped at your Target because you had a charger. I think as consumers, we need to start saying, if a hotel has a, charging station, let them know when they send you that, that feedback email, say, hey, it was great being able to plug in. And that way they might say, oh, okay, the customers like it, maybe we should put a couple more in. Or you can let them know like, hey, I really love staying here, but it would be better if you had a couple charging stations. And, these companies are constantly asking for feedback. You go buy a candy bar in one store and they're sending you an email an hour later, how was your experience? So I think as EV owners, we have to start putting the pressure on some of these locations, the hotels, the destinations, just and letting them know when they're doing things right with charging, but also in the feedback saying it would be great if you had a couple stations set up.
Yeah, the only downside I have to that is, from what I hear, the version 3 destination chargers, they may start giving the owners of those version 3 destination chargers the ability to start charging.
Yeah.
That's the only downside to it, because I'm like, come on, man, like electricity is not super expensive. Like, come on,
how much money they spend on just outside the hotel and keeping all of that stuff going. It's just like it's minor compared to who's coming in and getting a level 2 charge,
Yeah, because I mean, you mess around and do that, and you mess around and start charging more than what you pay in electricity for a profit. It's gonna be like, I'd rather not. I'd rather just go to a supercharger and sleep in my car and go from there.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife's not gonna let me do that, but
Yeah, that's a good point. When businesses have the right to control rates, and they do that now. So if a business has a charge point station, I was listening to a podcast where there was a representative from ChargePoint. So they do give recommendations as far as the hourly rate or per kilowatt hour rate. But the owner has the the capability to change that. If they want to just make it free for a couple of weeks, they can do that. And so yeah, there is there is a risk of being like charging at a hotel. It's like, wait a minute, it was $45 to get to charge my car, and if I would just went to a supercharger, it would have been 20. So yeah, there is a risk there, but I think for a lot of, and really a lot of places, they just need like a basic level 2, and even for some places where cars are parked for a long time, if you just give us access to a 110, just let us trickle
just to
charge.
maintain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with that. I can see that. Nice. All right, so we're gonna move on to everybody's favorite subject right now, the tax credit.
Oh boy.
My head has exploded at least a half a dozen times. One, trying to understand what they're saying, and two, once I actually grasp it, like, are you serious? So for anybody who's not, or who's been in a hole for the last 2 weeks, the Senate. So essentially, the first Build Back Better tax credit was stalled by Senator Joe Manchin. With he's the senator for West Virginia, and he was just not in favor of spending that much money. And this was last year. Everybody was hoping a tax credit was going to come, but fast forward to this year, he was more in favor for something a lot smaller. The only issue with it is very, very obscure. I did a video on it not too long ago, kind of just talking about it. Yeah, it's stupid. But essentially, in a nutshell, what it's saying is that for 70, if you're going to get a $7,500 tax credit, it's broken into two halves: 3750, 3750. The first 3750 is if your car is assembled in North America, which actually is a good thing, because now that means EVs assembled in Canada, United States, and Mexico. Mexico big time, because that's where the Ford Mach-E's manufactured. So that's definitely big. But then the second one is if your battery components and minerals are mined from countries with a free trade agreement with the U.S. There's actually 20 different ones that are part of the free trade agreement, 20 different countries. But the only thing about it is, just looking at it, I don't know if I think it's like one or two of them that I know for sure that mine minerals for maybe for Tesla, but not necessarily.
Yeah,
and that's
Australia. Australia might be one. Australia might
I
be
think
one.
Australia is one.
Yeah.
I don't think South Korea is one, but yeah. Either way, it's very obscure, because most manufacturers don't make their own batteries, so they don't even know. Which means they talk to Panasonic, CATL, LG Chem, Samsung probably, and those are the people that's making their batteries. And you'd have to, I guess, research, those companies in order to figure out where they're mining it from. But 9 times out of 10, they're probably just mining it where it's cheapest, and then they can charge the manufacturer whatever. I mean, the saving grace is Tesla.
China and different parts of Africa.
Yeah, and so that's very obscure, because China is the biggest proponent of EV batteries. Then that credit almost doesn't make sense, because it's like, okay, and I think there's ways that they could have did this, where they said, okay, for the next 3 years, you'll get the full credit, no matter where it's mined. Yeah. And then after the first 3 years, half would have to be, half the percentage would have to be, and then just increment it up, up until 2032, whatever. I mean, I think it's just something. I think they did that on purpose, and that's why I'm annoyed with that. I'm like, where these things are coming from, and that most EV, because it's not even EVs, it's plug-in hybrids as well that's affected because of the battery materials and the rest of it. So it's like, come on, guys, you did that on purpose, it, and it's very obscure, and it's wrong. Honestly, it's extremely wrong if you're trying to have EVs become mass market and really hit that critical mass of adoption. But I mean,
this is eliminated. I want to say, to try to meet all three of those criteria that they're looking for. this has eliminated almost all but like a small handful of EVs currently on the market, or those that are scheduled to come to market really soon. Because I want to say it's the Model 3, some variants I think of the Model Y, because that counts as an SUV, right?
So
but
the Model 3
even the
rear wheel drive does not count because the batteries are lithium iron phosphate, which are shipped from China and probably developed in China. So the only one that that's speculated to be eligible for this tax credit is the Model Y in any version.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
without any add-ons though. Without any add-ons that push it over. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you've got the other limitation is the prices on them. For sedans, for cars, they're $50,000, and then for SUVs and trucks, it's $80,000.
Mhm.
So most EV trucks that what do we have, like 2 or 3 of them on the market? None of them are going to be eligible for that. That's the Hummer EV, the Rivian, and I'm trying to think what's the other truck that's on the market right now.
Certain variants of the Lightning, the cheaper variants of the Lightning.
The Lightning, the cheaper. Okay, that's the other one, the Lightning, and that's right, the cheapest ones, which I believe you can only purchase the lowest end versions of the Lightnings are only like for businesses, and it's just like you have to start at the higher trims. So I'm not sure where that pricing starts for those levels that they're selling to consumers. And I want to say that they're probably starting around the 80K level. And of course, prices are gonna go up, and that's just a natural for the market, supply and demand. Everybody is raising their prices because everybody. Go ahead.
So Ford just raised their prices $7,500 across the board, I believe.
Boom.
For and because for the longest you can order a Ford for the past like 3 or 4 months. But I'm going to share this so we can see, where does this fall? F-150 Lightning, blah blah blah. Oh, build. Yep. So if I was to build this out, because I mean, even at that, I'm just like, I just can't.
Then as you're doing that, Ford was talking about using LFP batteries as well, which a lot of those batteries come from China.
Yeah.
So
So this is brutal.
So here you are.
Eliminating them. Yeah. So the XLT batteries are the only ones you can order.
So the Lariat, but they're only standard range, which I mean that's 240 miles, because they just updated the algorithm for their trucks, or the efficiency for the trucks, to get 10 more miles. As soon as I hit the extended range, that's 85 already out. For the XLT extended range, 80 already out. So what's the point? What's the point of getting a truck if I'm going to be towing stuff? It's already cut my range in half. But then now when I add a max battery to
that was something I was going to bring up too, about the trucks, but when we get to that segment, but this
is insane. Yeah, I have a lot of issues with this bill. I think the right analogy is, say the government were giving tax credits for candy bars, and they said, yeah, we'll give you a tax credit on a candy bar, but you can't use sugar in your candy bar. And it's like, that's how it is with these minerals, these mined battery components. China has 70% of these minerals, and there's not a lot of mining in the US. And then there are companies that want to mine, but they get blocked. So one in particular, like Piedmont Lithium, I'm not sure. And Don, you're there in North Carolina. They were trying to build out a mine to supply lithium for Tesla and ran into a bunch of hangups. So, and the other thing is, the automakers do not control the mining. Like they're not in the mining business, but you're adding a requirement for an incentive on their cars for a variable that's out of their control. And I think the focus on manufacturing in North America is key, keeping jobs, especially in the US. I think that what it should have been the focus. So if you make your EV in the US, you get a higher credit. And that way you stimulate jobs. Yeah.
And add the five. Like, honestly, that 12, at first it was like for union made vehicles, that $12,000 credit. Honestly, they should just add that, say, hey, if you mine and manufacture your batteries here, you get 12. You know, you get 12,000 off, which, you know, because I'm not going to show this for privacy purposes because it's got our address on it. But I mean, the Model Y we have on order, the way it's built out, we ordered it in January of this year. Right now, the car price is sitting at $440. $7,500 brings it down to like $59, which makes it more manageable because now it's coming back down essentially. Now, I mean, and I'm locked in on this price. So I honestly, I wish I would have made the order back in October, October last year. But
that's one of the better things though. Not everything about this new bill is bad. Like one of the good things is that price, that $7,500 or that $37 that you said it was split, that comes to you up front. So you don't have to file for taxes anymore for that. So that the good thing is that you can get that price, you can get that discount up front.
And that's the way I think it always should have been, because I mean, even if you did, like currently, if you were to buy a vehicle and, you had to wait to do your taxes, even like, let's say your tax liability is $3,000, you're not going to get the difference. So now, it's only for what you're liable for up to $7,500. So it's like, if you got a $3,000 tax liability, then it applies to that. And then that's it. You don't get anything back. But yes, I think this makes a bigger impact because it's like, okay, it comes off the vehicle. Now, if all these manufacturers start upping the price, like Ford, for instance, it's like okay, it's like now you're offset. Yeah, it's like now you're offsetting it.
If you notice in the last 2 months or so, almost every EV maker has said that their MSRP is now increased right around $7,500, $8,000, like almost flat across the line. Almost everybody has done that, and it's just like, well, what does it matter anyway? They just took that, and now that makes it even worse is because so many of these EVs are not eligible for this new credit. And now it's like, but we got slapped with this new $7,500, $8,000 price increase, and I can't even get that back. That purchase. So
and for the Rivian and Lucid, order holders who might be listening, I know they're offering like a signed contract agreement, so you can actually get the credit that they're already getting before this goes in place. So that's one thing and they're probably I've heard they're reaching out to customers. That's one thing you can do. The flip side of this is, EV demand was already high. Did we really need a credit? Like Elon said, we actually we can't really make enough cars already. You add in a credit, then you just increase demand, and then demand increases prices. So there is a flip side to this where if the credit were really generous, it might lead to even higher prices than what we're seeing and longer wait times. I would have loved to see more emphasis on giving a credit for apartment buildings, giving them a credit to set up charging for residents, giving credits for businesses and homeowners or even rental owners setting up charging. And, I'll keep coming back to this. I think, there is a cost to set up charging at home. And for some people, it can be pretty expensive depending on how their breaker set up in their home, the amount of conduit that needs to be run. And so I think we need to make it easier to get charging set up at home, and bringing that credit back would be great. But, this bill with the mineral requirements or the battery component requirements, they basically kind of shut down a lot of the cars that qualify. And I know Rivian's upset with it, but to be honest with you, if you're buying a $80,000 to $100,000 truck, $7,500 is probably not going to be the difference for you.
So, and that's why I don't have a problem with that, cutting that off at the price. Just like you're buying a near 6-figure or above, it's not going to sway your purchase decision for $7,500. It's nice for anybody pretty much, but at the same time, it's if you can afford those level of vehicles, it's not something that you need or is going to affect it. You're going to buy it anyway. But now that car that could have cost $50,000, $60,000, now you're looking at a limit where it's just like that's making a real difference. That makes my monthly payments look like maybe I need to question that.
Yeah, and I think what everyone's waiting for, there's probably just going to be a list of cars that qualify.
Yeah,
that comes
they're gonna have
out,
to
and
do. I
yeah,
think they have it now. Just in the current list of cars, because we had the other requirement that was removed was the 200,000 units being sold,
yeah,
and after that, like Chevy, Tesla, and a few, I think
GM.
GM, they're no
Yeah.
longer eligible under the old rules. But now under the new rules, that requirement is gone. But who knows what the rest of it? So, but I remember looking at the IRS site and working with our tax folks, and they were like, yeah, they have a list of who's eligible and what vehicles. So they're going to have to come up with another list. And I think part of that bill, didn't it include like some huge IRS adjustment where they were going to put like some $80 billion or something like that to expand the IRS and their audit capabilities and other stuff. So it's like, well, they got some more people now who can go ahead and make up this minuscule list of cars that are eligible for.
I would have loved that. There were some states like New Jersey that just basically they would just take $5,000 off the car, like no stipulations, like that was the state rebate. I would have loved just the country say, we're going to give $3,000 off. That's it. Like no matter what, a lower incentive, and even if it's 2,500, just a lower incentive with less stipulations. And I think that would have worked with the income restrictions, definitely. And that's another thing that's a little tenuous. So that for a single filer, if you make over 150 grand, you cannot claim this credit.
Yeah.
I would argue that 150 grand salary in New York is different than Jackson, Mississippi.
There you go.
Oh yeah, big time.
So,
big time. Or California or whatever.
Yeah. And then the places where gas is the highest, that's where the cost of living is usually highest too. So, having that 150, limit, I don't think it factors in cost of living all that well. And so again, it eliminates another crop of people who, could benefit, and they're probably living in places where they see higher gas prices. But so, there are a lot of things, a lot of concerns with this bill, and so that's why you don't see a lot of people like really excited about it in the EV community, and even the automakers, they're looking at this like still trying to understand how it's going to impact them. And Rivian and Lucid as startups, they're going to lose out on something that they have.
In keeping with that, Rivian, I think, could stand to benefit from this the most. Because unfortunately they launched at a bad time where supply chain and chips shortage and the pandemic, it just sucked for them, because I think these cars would have been a lot less, because the adventure the adventure editions right now, the first launch editions, they're within a reasonable price, but then after they had that, after they had to adjust market prices, that definitely set it out for them, because now they don't qualify. Because I think they were starting at like 60, 64, which was like, okay, well, that's fine. And even with and I think if you completely max it out, I mean, you'd be a little bit above 80. So, I mean, but, most people would have kept it under and, pretty conservative, and would have been able to buy more of these vehicles. They're having a lot of issues right now. And honestly, I think they're splitting their focus. But then the other thing is, like you were saying, like California gives damn near $12,000 in rebates to if you meet all the criteria. But I think for the most part, it's like you get like $3,000 or $5,000 pretty much just willy-nilly, just to they send you a check and you take it to the dealership and they take that price off the car. Now in North Carolina, we don't have anything. In most states, you don't have anything. And I think now we got to put the pressure on the states to really ramp up what they're trying to do and say, hey, look, this is what the government's giving. That's fine. You guys need to pick up some too.
Yeah, very much agree. We don't have anything in Alabama either. And these type of incentives, like I said, they really do encourage the adoption of these vehicles. You look at Norway, a lot of their adoption, and now they're through the roof, with EV conversion over there. There was a huge amount of government incentive that was given to them across the board, and it just shot their adoption rates up to, what are they, 80, 90 something percent now? So just like it's crazy, but the government went all in, and it's just like
And I believe what they did, they said if you buy a gas car, you're gonna pay higher taxes on that car.
Well, yeah, and
So
then
it was
roadways as
basically
well.
stupid to buy a gas car because
Yeah,
you're going to pay way more money, than just buying an EV. Even at the current prices of EVs, how they were taxing gas cars in Norway, it basically made no sense to buy one.
but it's too political here. Where if you try to
Yeah,
do that here, you get
yeah,
destroyed politically by the folks who are making electronic vehicles a political
Big
choice
oil.
versus just
yeah.
a choice in general. To sit there. Do you decide whether or not you get an Android or an iPhone? Is that political? So it's just like it's the same difference. It's like they're both great phones. Choose what you like.
Yeah, and I
I do
think that
prefer.
what most people are disappointed in is that you'll probably hear the administration say, yeah, this bill was for EV adoption, and it's really not that. The
Hmm.
way it's set up, I think it's
Hmm.
more of an anti-China bill more than
Yeah,
anything to, discourage using minerals and battery materials from China.
but it's political.
But
So
yeah,
there's
but
a political back into that. Yeah.
yeah, and I think if they really were for EV adoption, they would have made this very simple. It would
Yeah,
not be all these different stipulations. Like it's so confusing. And
yeah.
I've been telling people, don't assume that your car is gonna qualify. Like you need to wait until this list comes out because there's so many things so many requirements that are needed to claim the credit.
Well, but I know you like wait, but then people wait and then they can't get the vehicle. So I'll say, go ahead and get your vehicle. Just don't plan on
Right.
meeting it, and then be pleasantly surprised come time to file for 2020. I guess you're filing in 2024 for 23, and then you'll see, if you were eligible to get anything, and then if you get any of it, be happy with that, and then
Yeah. I also said do
Yeah.
not cancel because if you
yeah,
cancel, you're going to be at risk if they raise prices. So,
yeah,
just keep your order. And if you get the credit, you get it. But if you cancel, you do run the risk of, having to order at a higher price.
hmm hmm
Yep.
yeah,
No,
totally agree.
absolutely. Yeah, so I think we can all agree this tax credit, it was not for us. It really, it was not for us whatsoever.
Yeah.
But so what we'll get into now is a few of us got a chance to look at some of the new EV trucks that are currently on the market, currently being delivered. We'll start with Ray because he was able to go look at the F-150 Lightning and test drive it, right?
Yeah. So they finally got one. Well, they
Nice.
actually got a couple here at our local Ford dealership, and they have one that is purely for test driving, and then they had another one that they just had for sale. And from what I was at least able to determine at the time, this is about a month ago, they were not asking for a markup on it, which I was really surprised that they weren't. But it was the top of the line, fully loaded,
Yeah.
$100-something-thousand truck. So it's just like, okay, well, you're gonna pay big bucks just to get it anyway. But so me and my son, we went out just like we did when we test drove the Taycan, and when we test drove Model S before. We went out and signed up for the test drive and got in it. Now, first things first, you look at it, and it's a great looking truck. It looks just like any other truck you see out there. It's not a game changing truck like the Cybertruck or something that just looks totally unlike anything else out there on the road. It looks like every other F-150 and Dodge Ram and whatever. And for background, we have a Ram 2500 diesel right now, and that we use for towing our trailers and stuff. So we were just curious to see what that life would be like, electric. How does that truck move? How does it feel? And just I want to say it was about a 10-minute drive that they took us on. Let us do a little circuit around town, but it felt really good. Accelerated. It's so weird to be in a vehicle that large and to accelerate so quickly and move so smoothly. So they've definitely done a lot of good in that truck. They've designed it well as far as electric goes. It's done really, really well. It's a nice looking truck. It felt good. It felt like a quality vehicle. I know personally we had issues with Ford some time ago, but they definitely built a quality truck there. From what we saw, we were very impressed. And for us, the only thing that would stop us from going electric, well, there's two, from going electric, is number one, of course, the towing. For us, we need it for towing. We have horse trailers and horse, so it's towing. You lose so much. You really do. Right now, the infrastructure is not there. The battery, um, it just you're dropping down from what we're hearing to about 100 150 miles, tops, towing. So when you're towing, talking about thousands of pounds that you're towing. So, and none of the trucks right now are rated to tow high enough load compared to what we're looking for, something that would tow closer to 13 to 15,000 pounds.
Mm.
I think most of everything right now is just talking about 10, and I think the Chevy truck eventually is going to be talking about 20. So once we get there, that'll be the equivalent of a 250, 2,500 type truck. So then you could do that. But if they can't figure out how to increase that battery range so that you can at least get 200 miles, at least 200 miles when you're towing, because it's great without towing. You're talking 300 and something more. That's great. That's totally fine. I love that range. But when you're talking 100, 150 miles, that's brutal when you're towing. The other thing I noticed too is, of course, the size of a truck. So trying to pull into the infrastructure that we have out there, Ford, Lightning, their preferred partner is Electrify America as well. So trying to pull in, I could just only imagine trying to pull into one of these stations. It's going to be tight. You're right up, on other vehicles. And then, of course, electrics being expensive, you're right up on somebody's expensive vehicle. You open up that door, boom, So you have to be real careful with our current infrastructure, and then most of the stations aren't set to allow you to pull in when you're towing something. So you would have to either take up all the towing spots, all the charging spots, or you would have to disconnect if possible and leave your load somewhere else in the parking lot. If you're at a Walmart or a Target or wherever the stations are, you'd have to disconnect and leave your load and then pull up and charge and then go back and get your load, if that's even possible. If you're towing animals like horses, you can't do that. You have to stay connected at all times to keep the balance, because the animals could upset the balance. So it's just like, for not everybody, it all depends. Flip side of that is that, again, most people who have trucks nowadays, they're not towing most of the time, 99% of the time, if at all. There's plenty of people where trucks are almost more like a status symbol, or only thing you're going to be doing is hauling stuff. You're going to Home Depot or something, and you're going to get a whole bunch of wood or something for your yard or whatever. You're just going to toss a bunch of stuff up in the bed, and you're going to go do your thing. Or maybe you got to move some furniture around or something. Toss it back in there, and you're going to do your thing. For those use cases, this is an amazing truck. If you actually have to tow something, I would avoid electric trucks for right now. I would say, period. Avoid electric trucks if towing is something that you have to do quite regularly. But if you're just everyday living like most people are right now with the big trucks, they're outstanding. You can replace your truck easily.
Yeah, this thing is sick. Honestly, anybody who's not quote unquote initiated, as far as knowing what an EV is and what's out there, you would think that this is a regular F-150, probably just a little bit of an update with the light bar and call it a day. And that black is beautiful. That's nice. And
see, that's their high end one there. That wasn't the test drive one. That was the high end one that was for sale.
Yeah, I will say I've heard the overwhelming customer response is very positive with the Lightning, and kudos to Ford to making a truck for their customer base that does not deviate too far from a regular truck. I hope they make enough of them, because what's it's great having a good product. But if you don't make enough of them, then the market penetration is just not there. So I would love to, see Ford, commit to making more of these. And that way, you're not just dealing with one or two at a dealership with, some are having some really extreme markups, but cars are marked up regardless. Toyota Camrys are marked up too. So, I don't think this is just a Ford thing. But I love the truck, and I think looking at the Cybertruck, people are probably thrown off with why it's designed the way it is. I don't think it was for shock value. I think it's to maximize range, decrease drag, and improve the overall range of the vehicle. That's why it's designed so crazy, and you might see some better towing stats with that crazy shaped vehicle because the Ford F-150, it's not very aerodynamic, and
I personally, I don't think it'll do it because the deciding factor really is the what you're towing.
yeah.
So the range, like the Cybertruck may get better range than this Ford. It may be able to get like 400 miles or something. I would buy, believe that.
Yeah.
But but that loss, I think, is going to be equivalent because it depends on how much you're towing, and then what the configuration of what you're towing, what kind of drag, what kind of
the aerodynamics of the trailer, and I think
Yeah.
that plays a lot because I mean these vehicles, this F-150 Lightning, even the base model, the Pro model, the one that's for working people, that thing is still faster than the F-150 Raptor.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a $40,000 vehicle outpacing a $60,000 to $80,000 truck that you has a large following. Kyle from Out of Spec was doing something as well, some trailer tests, and he was saying the same thing. It's not necessarily how heavy the load is, which I think it does play a little bit, but it's more so the aerodynamics. That's the drag is what kills you. Because I mean, the more surface area you have, the more it has to fight against the wind. So like, let's say if they were able to create some sort of enclosure that could essentially receive a trailer into its aerodynamic figure, then I think you could probably even eke out maybe another 30-40 miles of range, because now you're not dealing with a lot of drag hitting the trailer. Because I mean, most beds create a lot of drag here because it's open, and that's why a lot of them have the tonneau cover, because that's what gives you the sleekness that you need in order to just slip through the air. But when you're adding that drag here and then adding drag like a whole nother, basically like a giant box, a rectangle, hitting the wind. Even after that, you're fighting the wind at that point, because I mean, jumping out of a plane, human beings can only fall at 120 miles an hour. That's terminal velocity. That's because air is pushing down on pushing up on you and also pushing down on you. So that's the equal point. What you want to do in an EV is reduce the air that's coming to you. And just like Tim said, that's why the Cybertruck is designed the way it is. It's almost like a wedge. A lot of people say it looks like a doorstop, but that's for a reason. It's because it's going to cut down on a lot of drag on that. And I mean, and when we get into the Rivian, it's pretty much the same thing there too.
Yeah, because I think another thing with the Cybertruck, the design is simple. It's going to cut down manufacturing costs to put more batteries in it and making the batteries more efficient. And so I think the design is all right. We know people want to use this for certain applications. We're just not going to involve, putting paint on it and adding another, a couple $1,000s worth of paint. And I think the battery efficiency, I think the towing and what you're towing does play a role, but the battery efficiency does help. And that's where you can stuff a lot of batteries into a EV truck. But the design and how that battery is managed from efficiency standpoint might eke out 20 or 30 more extra miles when you're towing a heavy load. We're not talking mind-blowing figures, but I love the Lightning, and I just hope Ford can make enough of them. And I think they're at the point where I actually feel forced to stop advertising because the demand is there. One of my buddies just ordered one, so don't waste money on advertising. Just spend that money building them.
Yeah, you don't need advertising anymore. Like, we have our phones. Most people stay up on what's going on in a lot of the different car world. So it's like you really don't need advertising like that, or cut it by half and see what happens. You're gonna see that you probably never needed to put that money there in the first place. Because I mean, when I used to work at Sprint or Best Buy, I'm not there to convince you what phone you want. You already know what phone you want. I'm I'm not here to sell you on that. At that point, I'm just here to show you the vehicle and make sure you get the paperwork done. Like there's nothing. I'm not going to convince you to you come in for let's say a Mustang. There's no way I'm going to be able to convince you to say, well, you know what? Instead of the Mustang, you should just get this F-150 Lightning. Like, no, you know what you want.
Yeah. Back to the trailer. I don't know. I just had an idea, and I was wondering if there's something we bring it up. If there's something they could look at. Designing trailers for EV trucks and designing trailers to have some sort of battery capacity even in them. I understand you're adding weight, but if you do it right, where you're not adding too much weight with a battery and you're able to give some juice back into the system, as long as you have a significant enough gain, then you say, okay, well, yeah, if I tow a normal trailer, that's 15,000 pounds, my Lightning or Rivian drops down to 100, 150 miles of range. But if that trailer that's still relatively around 15, maybe you added 1,000 pounds because of battery, but if you gain even 50 miles, then now you're looking at, like I said, coming around that 200-mile range. So I wonder if they're starting to look at giving some sort of capacity. I don't know how you could retrofit trailers that are out there, but start designing. Maybe automakers and trailer makers could start looking at this as potential. So you hook up to the power supply of the vehicle, like the Ford Lightning. That was the other thing I was going to say about it, that capability of it to charge other vehicles as well as charge your home, just mind blowing. I would buy the truck just for the battery, to store power for your home. It could power your entire home for days, depending on how much you're draining. But they're talking like everything, your AC unit, everything, not just like, power a couple of appliances. They're like, no, you hook that sucker up into the system, the expensive system that you got to buy to have it ready to do that. But you hook that thing up and it's just like, you can go from a few days to a whole week, depending on how much, drain you're taking on it. It's got more power than the Tesla power walls to be able to store, and obviously more capability because it's also a vehicle. So it's just like, if you know some bad storms are coming, you would have your vehicle charged up and ready in your garage, ready to go. And like, there goes the power. Oh, well, I'm good. It just took over from the vehicle. Now I know. And plus the fact that it's just like, okay, I could take that vehicle, go drive, hopefully the EA station or whatever still has power. Maybe it's 50 miles away. You can go somewhere, get some power, and then come back and you can still continue to charge your home if power hasn't been restored in a few days. So it's
100%.
Yeah, a lot of capability of things like that. So using that same technology, if they could use that with a trailer that has a battery power system, it can feed energy back to the truck to try to offset some of that loss. I'm no engineer. I don't know, how much, if that's really feasible, if it's just, you're going to lose too much in the conversion, you're going to lose too much in the weight gain that you're putting on it. I don't know, but I'm just putting it out there.
Right. I'm gonna do you one better. Instead of putting energy back into the truck, you put somewhat of a motor in the trailer for the wheels. So then that battery is powering those wheels to assist negating a lot of that. Negating a lot of that.
Put some regen in those wheels as well, because as heavy and big as that thing is, when you're stopping, that'll give you a lot of energy.
Now it will probably be. Now I will say the more universal one will be the ones that's for the Chevy Silverado, the Ford. So now you're getting the trailer makers into the EV game, because now they have a product. Now Tesla, if you have a Tesla one, you will probably have to buy only a Tesla one, because now you're talking also about when you plug it up, not only are you plugging up power, you're plugging up telemetry. So not only will you be able to see the stats for your vehicle, you should be able to see the stats for the trailer now. And then I would even say, even if there's no power in the trailer, that's fine. You're gonna lose a little bit more. But when you do charge it up at one of these other at one of the stations, it's gonna assist you. So because you're gonna pay for it either way. You're either gonna pay for the loss in miles that you're not getting, or you're gonna pay to have the trailer help you. It's gonna be, and it'll probably come out to the same thing.
I was gonna share my screen. So there is an Airstream trailer, and I saw an article about this. It's called the eStream that does that. It has solar and So it can actually extend range. So you see it has solar on top. It has an onboard battery. So it actually works together with the vehicle to help with extending the towing range. So this is the eStream. This is Airstream eStream, and this is a concept. But this is sort of what you were hinting at, building trailers like this that have those capabilities to assist with the towing. So batteries and control systems to work with EVs.
That's great. And like I said, you wouldn't need that much more range. You're not looking to get hundreds of miles out of this, so you don't need to weigh it down with 50,000 pounds of batteries. You need 50, if at least, somewhere around 50 miles of extra range that it would give your truck. If you could do that, anything beyond that is just perfection, so if you could add that on top, then yeah. So I like that. I want to take another look. If you can send that link later, I'm going to take a look at that, because I like that concept, and it's just like, it just hit me here while you're talking about it. I'm sure somebody out there had to think of that, but where they're going to have to go to make this all feasible to be able to to tow large loads like that with electric trucks.
Yeah,
really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Nice. All right, so what I'm about to put on the screen, the only reason why I have it is because I had to create a video for it. So yeah, but I just created something small just to show you guys the Rivian that I looked at. It was the launch edition R1T in cap granite, I believe, and this vehicle was amazing. I've never really been a small truck person, but this could probably convert me. I will say it's not without its issues. I will say that one issue that was slightly annoying the entire time of doing this video was whenever you got out and closed the door, the energy that you thought that you put into it to close it was not enough. You still had to give it more. And that was really, really weird, because I mean, a lot of these cars are made out of like strictly aluminum. Like the Tesla is straight aluminum. Like you probably dent that thing if you really hit it hard enough, just yourself. And this was, it was made traditionally, kind of like a more traditional truck. Like I don't know what they're using, probably some other metallic alloy. But yeah, this truck was really nice. And like driving it, man, it was a dream. It was really nice. I would get it just for the driving aspect of it. I could see myself driving this thing, because I don't really tow stuff. I do haul. My wife wants to redo the front garden, so it's like, yeah, I could use that to pick up some stuff here and there, or even probably get like a couch or something. And I think this is pretty intuitive. The charging, where the charging location is, that's pretty intuitive. I do like that. Kyle from Outer Spec, and the only reason why I keep bringing him up, because he was like the last video I watched. His is having some sort of issue. Either somebody hit his or whatnot. And that frunk, yeah, I could fit in there. I'm 6'3", I'm 6'2", and I could probably fit in there. And it's really, really nice. And I think I've said it before that this vehicle is beautiful. For me, I want the R1S, the SUV version of this. And if it's anything like this, because I've got 4 kids, a wife, so it's like 6 of us. And the R1S, space wise, and pretty much fits what we do a little bit better, because I have a Traverse now, and once I load everything up, it's really cramped. But I mean, loading up like an R1S or something would be nice, because now I have a front to put all that other stuff in, because there's no engine.
Yeah, but I forgot to mention that frunk is a game changer for trucks. For us, we've taken road trips in our 2500, and it's just like you either throw the luggage in the bed, and and then when you come to rest stops and stuff, or it's just like, oh, okay, somebody stay back with the truck, make sure nobody is taking nothing.
Yeah.
But the ability to throw them into that huge frunk in this one and in the Lightning is tremendous, to be able to have that. Yeah. Game changer.
That's what almost got me. That's what I do wish I would have put a reservation in for the Lightning when it was for 40, because I mean that's a steal. That anybody who got the $40,000 Lightning was a steal. The other thing was the gear tunnel in this Rivian. That was another big thing too. Like we had it for like 4 hours, and instead of cluttering up the inside of the truck or the truck bed, we just put everything in the gear tunnel, and it gave it a nice clean look, clean aesthetic, and and I can climb through there. I'm claustrophobic, so I wouldn't, but yeah, I could climb through there. And even and it felt so natural. Like, for one, the getting out the car, it's like a traditional latch system, like a regular car. Whereas I'm so used to pushing a button in my Tesla to open the door, it was kind of refreshing to have that latch back, just knowing that I can get out the car whenever I feel like it. The other thing was having the information that was in front of me. That was fine. I realized that I don't necessarily need that. It doesn't really matter to me, but it was nice to have that because you had the navigation and it showed you what was around you. I didn't really play too much with the infotainment screen. It was fine. I mean, it's typical. It's not game changing or anything. It does what it's supposed to do. I will say the other thing is, depending on where the weight is in the truck, it's always shifting its suspension, like just leveling itself. It was really weird. Like, we were at a couple lights and you could just see the car just kind of lowering, and just, I don't know what it was doing, but I'm like, we haven't changed weight in 30 20 minutes, but you're sitting here messing with it, but it's like, all right, that's fine, I guess. So I think if they manufacture it well, it should last a while. But if they didn't, then that's going to become a problem because I think it's on an air suspension. It had a giant moon roof just like the rest of the car, so it felt spacious. Um, One of the weird things about it was the speaker that was under it, under the center console, and even the center console was like sitting right next to you, and then there's nothing that connects the console to the front, which is not bad because it gives you a nice wide open space for if your wife has a giant purse, you can just put it there.
That's the purse space.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't even use it. That's fine. Go ahead, put your purse there. That's where it lives. Fine, whatever. But like, while it's in drive, you can't pull the Bluetooth speaker out from under the console, so it's automatically locked, which is interesting. Whatever you're playing on the radio, if you pull out the speaker, it automatically switches over to that. It's also a battery inside of it, so if you had to charge like a device, that you could do that. The car has 7,776 cells, and then in order to even it out to make it all sevens, they put the cell in a flashlight that sits in the door, kind of like the the Rolls Royce inside the door where they have the umbrella where you push the button.
Yeah.
It's a flashlight when you push that button, so you take it out and flashlight. So it was interesting. I mean, it's for people who do like camping and stuff. This is perfect. You have space to put all your stuff. You can haul stuff. The car is rated to, or the vehicle is rated to, do a lot of off-roading and give you the power that you need because it has, this was the quad motor, so it's got a motor on each wheel, not just each axle. So each wheel is putting out, insane numbers. And even, and I think this is even heavier than the F-150, which is, and it's smaller. Is definitely smaller, but it's heavier.
It's faster.
And
it's faster.
Yeah, it is faster. And then, of course, I did a couple launches, and you don't think that a vehicle that size should be able to move like that, and it's moving like it's a car.
And then like the other thing, something like that, 0 to 60 like seconds or something.
Yeah,
for a truck.
I think this is the only other vehicle that could probably beat and it'd probably neck and neck, and depending on who drives it, but it could probably beat like a Model 3 Performance. And for a truck to do that, that's very impressive. The key fob was pretty nice too. Nice refreshing change. They also have a bracelet for you if you have if you own the car. So if you don't want to carry your keys or your phone, you just walk up to it with a bracelet. It recognizes that. When you do get close, what would happen is the lights here. So the lights here all come alive. The car comes alive when you get near it. When I hit the unlock button, it all just, like I said, came alive. And then like when you're charging it, this turns green. It's pretty nice. And I would buy it, but this one, somebody traded in for, a profit, of course. Not sure what they traded in for, but let's just say the dealership wants 150,000 for it. I'm like, that's not a $150,000 vehicle. But
Yeah.
and one of the big glaring issues with it is also the tonneau cover, which is built in, which sounds pretty good. And I hope Elon's taking notes, because that tonneau
Yeah.
cover was good. But what happens is, as it sits out in the sun, those materials start to warp, and they're in chunks. So then when it tries to slide in and is bowing, it gets stuck. So now
Yeah.
you got to sit there and push it down in order to make sure it gets through there. And some people have already said that, grit and sand and whatever dirt gets into the track and stops it completely. So, and Rivian is actually trying to figure out how to fix this issue.
Yeah, I mean, the Rivian and the Lightning are two examples where, electric trucks, what you need out of it, except for towing, that's a valid concern. But if you're not towing, I mean, these trucks have so much capability, and if these are, vehicles in your price range, strongly recommend that people look at these vehicles and then drive them. That's the thing, for some people who have not driven an EV, especially, since they're really not any EV trucks, take a test drive, set up, a test drive and see what you think. And I think for a lot of people, you'll be blown away. We, all three of us, we're used to driving EVs, and, anytime we see or, experience a new one, it's like so much better than a gas car. But yeah, the price on the Rivian is it's not cheap. It's not cheap, but you do get a lot for your money. And even with the F-150, and we were mentioning the frunk, like even the frunk in my Model 3 is a game changer, just storing, the items in there. But,
That's where
having that
takeout goes for me.
storage. Yeah, yeah. I put my gym clothes in there. I put my gym shoes in there, and we put a carry-on bag in there. But with these EV trucks, you're going to have so much storage because you don't have an engine taking up that front trunk. And then, since there's no drive shaft going through the middle, they can do this, this storage compartment in the center of the truck. So, there are a lot of storage opportunity. And then the F-150 front, which, they're advertising, it's huge. You can put so much in there and leave your bed clean. And so, yeah, the storage, the capability, the performance, these are two examples of where EVs just truly shine. And like I said with Ford, I just hope Rivian can make enough of them and keep up with the demand, and maybe look at their engineering to, improve, their margin on these trucks, which I think there are a lot of concerns about how much they're. Yeah,
that's a major concern for me. So I mean, switching to the financial aspects of it, they're so, and I alluded to this earlier. Their focus is split right now. They're delivering the EDV, which is the Amazon delivery trucks. They're making the R1T, and they're making the R1S, and this is all out of their factory in Normal, Illinois. The problem I have is they're making 3 different vehicles when they haven't successfully ramped one of them yet.
right.
And then the other thing is they're building a new plant down in Georgia for their new R2 platform, which I'm like, you're not even you haven't even finished what you started to do. You can't build a new plant in order. That doesn't make sense. From what I understand, they have like $15 billion in cash right now, and they're not a profitable company right now. So it's really, I hope they can navigate through this and really figure it out. And I think what they should have did was, fine, you're giving out the launch editions. After that, do not do the dual motors. You focus on the cheapest one, because now you figure out how to get it cheaper under that $80,000 cap, because then you're gonna drive a lot of your supply. You're gonna drive a lot of people to buy it, which means you're gonna be a little bit more profitable. So I would say get the launch edition out and start with the single motors first. Do not do the dual motors, even though it's just the price difference. It really doesn't cost them that much more to make the dual motor versus the single motor one. So, but I mean, if you're trying to get people to buy it, you want the cheapest one possible. But yeah, it's RJ. I think hopefully we'll be, you know, we'll definitely be watching with some scrutiny. But you know, EV trucks to me right now, because it doesn't tow, they're symbols. They're symbols saying like, "Hey, I can afford this, and I got it. That's why I did it." You know, whereas the cars are a little bit better. Like even the Porsche Taycan. I mean, the big value there is it gets a lot more range than what it's rated for. So I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You know, if you're able to do something like that. But yeah, these trucks, man, I love them. The F-150. If I could, I would definitely buy one because it's now for me. In order to get to get the F-150 Lightning, I need the version that you get 3 seats up front and 3 seats in the back. I got too many. I got too many kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it was a great experience. Definitely going to be doing some more of this. I'm actually trying to reach out to the what is it? The media, the press teams. See if you know what's the process of getting some of these vehicles. Because I mean, I would love to start doing this more and more. And the person that you see in the video here is my friend Bryce. He and I are actually doing a channel to actually review just cars in general. So this was our first project. So that's why I didn't use the footage from that specifically, because one, we're trying to finish putting that together, and two, this was the stuff that I took for myself for for this purpose. But yeah, these things are awesome, man. I'm like a kid in the candy store right now.
Yeah, and I think the charging infrastructure, because these EV trucks, they have bigger batteries, so they're going to take longer to charge. But we really I think both Electrify America and the Tesla Superchargers, they're going to have to start accommodating, making these stalls maybe a little bit wider, a little bit longer, pull throughs to help with this adoption, because I think it will come to a point where someone buying a gas truck especially a diesel truck with diesel prices the way they are now, I think people are looking for alternatives. And once, I always say the cars have already caught on, but once the trucks catch on, like that's trucks are the biggest market in the US. So if you make I would say if you make a decent EV truck without all the bells and whistles, that's affordable, the total addressable market for that vehicle will be really high. And so I hope that both and that's why I'm kind of disappointed, the Cybertruck price will not be what was announced. Like I think it will be at least 90 to 100 grand coming out, just given the demand. And so, it's just one of those things where the demand for these vehicles is so high, it's keeping the price up. But I would love to see some more affordable options in this segment.
Yeah, I think even with the Cybertruck, what they need to do is prioritize. I understand the quad motor, you're going to make more money because I mean Tesla already has that track record. They're a little bit ahead of everybody, of making expensive vehicles and taking the profit from that, making the cheaper vehicles and so on and so forth. They proved that. That's cool. But I want a Cybertruck, man. Like I just don't want to pay like 80 grand for it. Like I was so hyped for it, like for it to be like 40. I was like, man, you know what, that for the dual motor, I could do like 50. That's cool. I could, my wife was on board. She, at first she was like, no. Then it got to the point where she was just like, get what you want. I was like, yes, Cybertruck. All right, cool. Now it's gonna be like 100,000. I'm like, yeah, I know I can't get it. Whatever.
Yeah, and it's hard. I think Elon, even the way they delayed it, they said, if we came out with it now with the cost of materials so high, and just remember, like it's made out of stainless steel, so there's a lot of nickel in stainless steel, and so nickel prices are high. So the materials going into the truck were already, and it's not Tesla's fault. It's just inflation and supply chain. Like I don't think they're trying to goose their margins. I think they're just saying like, look, we can't bring this out where it's going to start at $120,000, because right now, if we did, it would. The other thing is the backlog for their other cars is so high. They had to shelve it, and it was the right decision. It's just you got people waiting a year for a car, and then with batteries and the supply chain the way it is, I think companies have just had to focus on their bread and butter, and then release some new projects once things cool off.
Yeah, Yeah, they shelved the Model 3 long range just yesterday, so that's that's not they're not taking any more orders, which is really interesting. Because I think if you were going to do that, you could have shut off the. Sad to say, the Model Y orders for a little bit too, till you get caught up. They got big plans coming up for a lot of that stuff. So I mean, and they stopped producing the 4680 Model Y. Spoken Reviews, that channel, he's been chronicling his experience with that, and and Sandy Monroe is finally taking it apart, and was able to figure out how many cells are in it, and all that. But I think their official post should be coming out this week about its density, its energy density, what it could do, and all that other stuff. But this is it's they stopped the 4680 Model Y, but I think the reason why they did that is because they're either going to use it for the Tesla Semi, which should be coming out the end of this year, or they're going to save those for the Cybertruck, because the answer to any EV to get more miles is not to cram more batteries into it, because of the fact that it makes it heavier, which means it's actually less efficient. There's like my terminal velocity what's it called example earlier. Just you have to meet there's a certain inflection point where it's profitable and it's feasible in order to drive a certain amount of distance. And I think the 4680 is going to be that for the Cybertruck. I even think the Tesla the Tesla Semi is going to use either 18650s or 2170s, because that's already a big vehicle anyway. That's you're only gonna, I think they're cramming so many batteries in there, you're supposed to get like 500 miles of range, which is like 9,000 kilowatt hours. So you're already putting a lot in that. So you're not going to use 4680s for that. You want it for the Cybertruck, and that's my prediction of what I'm seeing.
I agree with that. And the Model 3 orders being shut down is not surprising. I think the demand for Model 3, especially internationally, so outside of the US, is really high. The other thing people have to consider, there are a lot of fleets, Hertz being the biggest one, but there's some other companies that are just buying thousands of Teslas at a time, like literally ordering thousands of Teslas at a time. And they're mostly ordering Model 3s because, it's the, for a rental car purpose, that it's a good, a good option. And so there may be customers disappointed that the order page is turned off, but I always say, I warn people all the time. I'm like, the demand is so high. If you want an EV, you need to order it when you're thinking about it, because there's no guarantee.
It's going to be a while before you get it anyway. So
yeah. And I think the other thing with the Model 3, the way they're manufacturing, so there really no advanced castings related to the Model 3. And in Giga, Texas, they're basically making all Model Ys. So the Model 3 is kind of taking a step back, at least in Fremont, given the Model Y demand, and definitely not even in the picture in Texas. So so if you wanted a Model 3, is disappointing, but right now the easier way to manufacture cars and get the volume out is just for them doing the Model Y because of the front and rear castings. But the China factory, they basically handle a lot of the Model 3 production for international shipping and export. And so, at Giga Shanghai, the Model 3 is a huge program, but I think it's just in the States, the Model Y is king, and the backlog
SUV is what it is right now.
Yeah.
And Ray, speaking of SUVs, I hear Porsche's testing the Macan EV now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard about that. There's a lot of excitement on there for that. The Taycan sales, went through the roof for them. So there are a lot of people who are interested in waiting to see what that one could do. They're supposed to be electrifying eventually their entire fleet. So
I'm gonna try and get with my Porsche dealer here to see if I can possibly get a Taycan for a test drive, even if it's used. I mean, just because I hear very, very good things about them, and I would love to experience that for myself.
Yeah, but I was like, oh yeah, well, my Porsche dealer here is like they've got a few of them here. It's funny, so it's just like, yeah, you can get with these guys, but yeah, won't do you much good from here. But
I mean, and you guys have a supercharger now. A road trip might be in order.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. No, we looking at Charlotte, at some point, once, little man goes out and heads off to college, that's one of the towns that's on our list, or we may go. So who knows?
Yeah, sure. It's funny that Charlotte's on a lot. It's on a lot of people's list, because it's booming, and it does give you a sense of the big city. To me, I've been here so long that I don't even feel like it's a big city. But I mean, yeah, I will say we're getting. I think we've just had 3 chargers, well, 3 Tesla superchargers go up. So now the infrastructure is almost like you have one in the north, you got one in the east, one in the west, one in the south, and then like some of the towns like right outside of Charlotte, like Mooresville, is one of them. There's like outside of Charlotte, Teslas and EVs are huge, but I mean it's because think about it, it's mostly people commuting from the outside of Charlotte into Charlotte. So a lot of people on the outside of Charlotte get them. I don't really see them. People that I know inside the Beltway, they don't really have them, but people outside the Beltway definitely have them.
Yeah, no, the charging wasn't bad. The infrastructure wasn't bad outside. We went to Charlotte for Thanksgiving last year, and I took the Taycan, and there were a few EA stations out there, along with a few others that we could use, and it certainly wasn't bad at all. The charging was pretty good, and to say that it's only getting better from there.
And I think they had to do that because of the fact that it's definitely getting crowded. It would have gotten crowded. I haven't gone anywhere in and around town where I had to wait. I've never had to wait for a supercharger so far. Knock on wood. I've never had to wait. A lot of people, out west, I think that's more so an issue over there because they have such a saturation of over there. But over here, I've never had to wait.
So Tim, you've never had to
I've never had to wait for a supercharger. Maybe once. You know what? There have been a couple times when I first got my car. I had a bunch of referral miles that I wanted to use up, so I would charge. There's a mixed use place here in Atlanta. It's called Atlantic Station, where there are restaurants and shopping and movie theater. So it's right off the highway in the middle of Midtown. And so when I was working, I'll try to charge and use my supercharger referral miles up because they were basically free miles. So that Atlantic Station is a pretty busy station. So at the time I was doing that, so like a year or two ago, it was pretty busy. So occasionally I would have to wait. But then they expanded that station from like 8 stalls to around 20 stalls, and they added like V3 now. So the station is huge, but there's also a lot of apartments and condos. So that was a high volume, high traffic supercharger. So I had to wait there. But again, it wasn't anything where I was waiting hours. It's like, wait like 5 minutes, and even sometimes like just a minute or two for a stall to open up. But they updated the map, and in Georgia, and even my last drive to Florida. So let me tell you how good this is becoming. So for anyone with range anxiety, especially driving from Georgia to Florida, we put in our destination, but basically we said, if my kids were hungry or someone had to pee, we just found the next exit, and like 9 times out of 10, it had a supercharger on 75 from Georgia to Florida. And they're actually building a couple more along that corridor as well. So it's becoming now where, I don't even have to think about it anymore when I'm driving to Florida. Like if we need to stop early, I'll just, look on the map, and there's probably one like 5 miles from, where I need. I mean, they are doing such a great job. But I will say, if it's not a high traffic, high volume supercharger, I've never really had to wait at all. And going back to our earlier discussion, there are plenty of superchargers where there are ample stalls for not just Teslas, but all EVs. So, there's room for that.
The only requirement that I have, and I'm going to keep preaching this until Tesla does it, is now that we're opening it up, what needs to happen is whenever I decide to go to a supercharger, I should have a button. Like, let's say if it's all full, there should be a an add myself to the queue button.
Right.
That tells you, you know, that even for non-Teslas, you can do it. You should be able to do it from the app to say, okay, I want to supercharge here. Hit this button. I'm added to the queue. When it's time for you to, and because Tesla already has all this data on whether they're being used, what's not being used, which stall is what. When somebody's finished charging, it tells you, it says, hey, you're up. Go to stall XYZ. And
give you like a time limit to get there. Give you like, 3 minutes to get there, 3 to 5 minutes. Say, hey, here's your spot. You have 3 to 5 minutes to get to the stall, or we're going to open it up. That's a great idea. That's a great feature request. But I'm hoping it doesn't get to that point where they're so congested that we have to do that. But the build out has been impressive.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the fact that because I've never had to wait, I don't want to enter into that weird spot where like it's like, okay, are you next or you next? I don't want to, I don't want to cut anybody. It's like just make a queue system to where I don't necessarily have to talk to anybody. It's like, hey, put myself in the queue. All right, let me go sit and park somewhere. Oh, hey, I'm up. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and get. So then that way people don't get confused as to whose turn it is. I mean, I've done it. We've all done this at the barbershop at some point where it's like, hey, who's next? You just don't know who's next. So
I think like a video or two of where people were just like total jerks and getting into fights. Over these Tesla chargers. Like someone was like, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes. Oh, here comes the stalls open. Someone jumps up in there and like, hey, I've been here and I don't care. I'm here now.
I would say the one time I think for people that do not have a lot of experience supercharging, you got to be careful on holidays. So July 4th, Memorial Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. That's where I typically see or hear about issues with congestion at superchargers on those high travel days. So those are days where one way to get around that is to travel at non-peak time. So, push your driving towards later in the night or early morning hours can help with that.
And depending on what time of year you're doing that, it actually is probably better for you to do so. Like right now in the summer, if you can start traveling at about 70, 80 degrees, you probably even get more range and more efficiency.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. So that I always tell people, be careful during the holidays. That's a time where you might have to wait. But I always say, don't let the outlier days, cloud the overall experience, because on a non-holiday, many of these stations are wide open. But that's where having these huge charging hubs will help with that holiday overflow.
Yep. Yeah, man. Well, yeah, we got through everything today. I mean, definitely had a good time. We want to thank everybody for tuning in, and please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. I got to get used to saying that, and I probably should put it in the beginning of the video. But yeah, please do not forget to do that if you guys want to tune in. We're still figuring out the schedule. We had vacations and all that for the summer. We have kids, so yeah, that does happen. But I'm sure you can engage with us all on Twitter or Facebook and just hit us up. If you guys have any questions, please leave any comments that you have about any of the conversations down below, and we'll definitely be happy to get with you. And thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.